What's up, guys? Hope you can hear me good. I just solved a whole heap of technical issues to bring you this show today, Rukshan On X. I am actually on the road technically, so not in my studio setup, but I still wanted to do the show. And tonight's actually meant to be the opposition podcast with Avi Yevany, but Avi slacked off. He went to get a haircut, and I haven't heard from him since. Nah, all jokes aside, I will touch on what Avi's been doing as well and why we're not doing the opposition podcast today, because he's been quite busy actually at the hairdressers. So I will talk about that with you guys as well. Let me just make sure my audio is all good. Let me know if you guys can hear me all good. It's always hard when you're resetting up, when you're traveling around and you have to, move your whole setup and get it going again. But I think I've managed today, so hopefully everything turns out good. So I was meant to actually do Rukshan On X, the show, yesterday as well, and obviously I didn't get a chance to do that as well, and so I'm making up for it today because we were not going to do the opposition podcast because Avi was too busy again getting his haircut. So here I am. Yep, Tracy says she can hear me great. As you can see, guys, your comments do come through. So if you're watching me on Facebook, YouTube, or X, you can comment and they will come through on the screen. So it's a very kind of interactive show. I will read your comments as I talk about some of the news. It's a very casual show. I'm not too serious. Don't look at me like one of those serious podcasters with very intellectual opinions. I'm very, specifically on this show as well, very casual and really just, the common perspective on news and sharing that with you guys and getting your perspective on some of these stories as well. So that's really what I'm doing. Someone's asking, are you attending the 31st protest, Rukshan? Yes, I will be attending the 31st, the rally. I've always never said I'm not attending. Some people misconstrue some of my concerns, but for me, in terms of the work that I do, obviously covering protests and live streaming, a whole heap of people gathering, regardless of what happens there, I would like to live stream and cover it. But I did make my intentions clear that I was very much looking forward to when I first heard about it, that a patriotic march for Australia. How great is that? It should be happening all the time. It's an amazing, wonderful country that we live in. So, and it's a shame that we don't do it as often. You're seeing how passionate some of the other groups are about causes overseas, and why not celebrate Australia sometime? So of course it's a protest and a rally about some issues that we're facing in the community, and I'm actually going to talk about some of these immigration things as well, and I'll have a whole segment on the March for Australia towards the end. I wanted to do it at the start, but I thought, why spend every single episode talking about the March for Australia right at the start of this show? I'll leave it till the end because it's a lot of gossipy stuff, a lot of she said, he said stuff, and a lot of drama, but maybe we've moved beyond that now, and there's a bit of momentum building. So that's always good. Colin got a comment here: stop the genocide in Palestine. Look, I'm going to be talking about that's probably my first story, because it is a breaking news story in terms of some of the relationship issues between Israel and Australia. So I'll get to that soon. Stefan, there you go. Steven says, I'm glad the far-right wing Israeli politician got his visa cancelled. So yeah, this is a part of the story, the first story I'm going to cover as well. And I'll get some of your thoughts on this, because it's quite a controversial time in Australia's relationship with Israel and with some of their other partners as well, particularly the United States of America. Anthony Albanese and the Labor government has been very, if you support what they're doing, you would say their stance has been very tough on Israel. If you look at Anthony Albanese, the way that I look at him, I would say that he's perhaps out of his depth and just ruining relationships that Australia has with some of its allies around the world, including the United States of America and Israel. If we're looking at allies in the Middle East, that has really been one of Australia's only allies in that region for a long time. So I will get to all of that. Evening, Nathaniel, thanks, mate. And everyone, thanks for jumping on. I do have the super chats turned on as well. So if you want to support the show, you can do super chats on YouTube. It's much appreciated. It does, make me feel good to get a super chat here and there. I've already got one from Catherine. Catherine, thanks for the super chat and joining in on the show. So Catherine writes, kudos Avi on the hairdresser report and response. So I will actually talk about the hairdresser, because that's all a part of this Israel-Palestine thing that we tend to keep talking about in Australia, because some reason that's like the major story in this country, because we do keep having problems in Australia related to that as well. And when I'm talking about this hairdresser, if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is the hairdresser in Bentley that kicked out a Israeli customer because, you know, he's Israeli, and she was very upfront about that and called him a baby killer and said, you know what, I'm going to give you my hairdressing service, get out of my store. And then yesterday, you know, locals went there after finding out. A lot of Israeli Australians went there, Jewish Australians. They went to the hairdresser and protest out the front of it, which Avi was busy capturing. So that's why he was editing his video. You might have seen it. He's put it up on his X and YouTube, his report from that day. So that's why we didn't do the opposition podcast today. Super chat, my ass. Your favorite dog, mate. I don't know what that means, but don't super chat me your ass. I don't. This is not an OnlyFans type thing that I'm doing here. I think you're just upset, mate. But look, I do welcome the trolls, guys. Troll away. Of course, try to keep it respectful. Derogatory stuff, threats of violence, things like this. You know, not on. But if you just want to, you know, have a go at me, yeah, go for your life. Go for your life. So let's have a look at the first story, guys. I'm just going to pull up the browser here. We've got ABC. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Anthony Albanese betrayed Israel. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has launched an extraordinary personal attack on Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, claiming he has betrayed Israel. The post on social media is the latest escalation in tensions between Israel and Australia, and between the two leaders personally. History will remember, this is what Netanyahu said, history will remember Albanese for what he is, a weak politician who betrayed Israel and abandoned Australia's Jews, Mr. Netanyahu said in a post on social media platform X. The comments come after Israel's foreign minister revoked visas for Australia's representatives to the Palestinian Authority in what was seen as a retaliation move for Australia's decision to recognise a Palestinian state. Let's just pull up that tweet. So this is the Prime Minister of Israel. It says, again, I'll just repeat this. History will remember Albanese for what he is, a weak politician who betrayed Israel and abandoned Australia's Jews. Now, whatever you think about what's happening overseas, and whatever you think about Benjamin Netanyahu, the leader of a country that's usually have had very friendly relationships with Australia, to come out and, you know, really put Anthony Albanese in his place like this. Now, again, you might disagree with this. Is a pretty strong statement, and it's not something that commonly happens. You know, things are usually smoothed over, and there's not too many personal attacks when it comes to these type of things. But in this case, all these things that have gone down, especially this cancelling of these politicians that was meant to visit Australia from Israel, that, and then also Israel itself retaliated by cancelling some visas for Australians that wanted to go to the Palestinian Authority to be involved in some things. So this is quite strong language, and obviously this is going to play on the news here in Australia and around the world as well, this rebuking of Anthony Albanese. I would love to know your thoughts, what you guys think about this, and we'll read some of your comments, but let's read some of the comments on X and what people are saying, just to get a gauge for how the community is responding to this. So we've got Oz versus the Agenda here saying it warms the heart watching you eat each other alive. Someone says, we no longer care what you think, and any well-behaved Aussie Jew is always welcome here, mate. Their quaint oddities but mostly harmless. And then Mozia writes, he's also abandoned everyday Australians, Western values, and our long-term allies. What did we do to deserve this? And S writes, nobody betrayed you. You and your Jewish Zionists just overplayed your hand in this time and got exactly what you deserved. So mixed reactions. Obviously, people have very strong views. And it's actually accurate what that person says. A lot of Australians, let's forget about Israel for a second. A lot of Australians would look at this comment and be like, history will remember Albanese for what he is, a weak politician who betrayed the Australian people. Like Anthony Albanese continues to actually let down the Australian public. So regardless of whatever Benjamin Netanyahu says, I think many Australians will feel this way about Albanese's legacy. Of course, the Labour faithful, those that blindly vote in someone like Albanese, and the supporters on the edges there, on the Greens, and all these people that do actually support this guy, they won't see him that way. They might see him like a massive political figure, like kind of like how the sheep in Victoria see Daniel Andrews, despite all the destruction that he's caused over the years, they still forgive him and worship him. But for the rest of us that looks at Albanese legacy, we do see him as a weak politician who betrayed the country. But anyway, enough of my personal thoughts. Let's have a look at what you guys are saying in the comments, and I'll see if I can bring some of those up to discuss further. Well, this is kind of another way related to his just overall weakness. Australia says Albo is selling us out to communist China. Let's keep going. Let's go right to the top when this started. Thank you. I'll just put some positive comment for myself. Rukshan for PM. Thank you. All right, here we go. I think this is for me. How many shekels did it cost to buy your soul, you fat tally-tubby terrorist? No shekels, mate. I am. My opinions are my own. I have very strong opinions, and I'm not someone that would very easily support a terrorist organization like Hamas. So I have very open, transparent views about my views about Western culture, protecting Western identity, as well as rebuking the terrorism around the world, including all types of terrorist organizations and terrorist states. So, unfortunately, Hamas happens to be terrorists. So, I view them in that light. Abby, I'll maybe Abby's got a vax preparation. That's for a comment for later. Someone's put here, Tony Burke, one of our ministers that's actually cancelling the visas, called him the minister for Hamas. And it does appear like a lot of these decisions around visas are being made to appease domestic, local concerns that certain populations might have because of something that someone said. It's not really, I don't know if it needs to be raised to that standard to just cancel visas of politicians because there's some type of disagreement about the context of comments. And again, it's happening on both sides now, but Australia did kind of start these visa attacks at least. Yeah, John says Albo abandoned Australia. I definitely agree he's abandoned Australia. He's got other interests, for sure. I think I read this before, but yeah, Albo abandoned Australia. A lot of those comments. Turia says that Netanyahu is projecting, and yes, I will concede that there's many people saying around the world, including other leaders, that Netanyahu will be remembered as someone of a bad leader, someone that's responsible for war crimes and so on. So these things go both ways. But, looking at the Australian context, obviously we're looking at the domestic fallout of it as well within Australia. Like the Liberal Party has responded. I might bring up the Liberal Party's response as well. So here we got Sweta saying, praying Amir Tasrafti doesn't get his visa cancelled. I'm not exactly sure who that is, but I'll have a look at that later. Koza says, I'm a Christian pro-Israel person and I love yours and Avi's work. Do I attend the 31st protest? I want to stand up for Australia and Christianity. Look, the 31st protest, I'm going to, again, Koza, if you're going to be watching this show to the end, I will actually spend a bit of time talking about it. It is a decision now. I think it's up to the individual to decide. It's something that I've raised concerns about. Multiple people have raised concerns about certain things related to it, but it's something that might not really be an issue if a lot of people with the same set of values turn up and drowns out all that kind of noise. And that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. And I don't want to disparage people and, tell them not to attend and all these kind of things. But, you should be, these days anyway, with all the information that you have available at your fingertips, be informed, right? Be informed in the fact that if you do go there and, you're filmed and you're next to some spazzo Nazi dudes and, they're doing something that's somewhat, questionable in terms of their actions, it might have ramifications. I don't know, but I think it's good for people to know that, and then to be aware of, what potentially could happen based on the things that people have said and done. But overall, I'll talk about it towards the end because I do think it's an important topic to cover. Nathaniel, I think I read that before, but he's abandoned all Aussies. Albo is a treasonous, filthy, spineless scumbag. Very strong language there. Mate, how many shekels to sell your soul, you evil creature? Man, I would, trust me, I would only accept either Bitcoin or Solana or like USD. Okay, I wouldn't take shekels or rupees for anything. So regardless of that, I wouldn't do anything like what you're saying. I'm just sharing my opinion. I know we might disagree, Richard, on our certain opinion when it comes to this foreign conflict, but I'm sure we don't agree on every single foreign conflict in the world. And I don't hold your opinions against you. So there you go. A lot of comments there, guys. I'm just going to keep going with this story and try to catch up later on. Gideon says, how much are the Jews paying you, Rukshan Berg? Yeah, I mean, it's a common question that I get, Gideon. I mean, I should be filthy rich the way that people are talking about all the shekels that I get just for having my own personal views and opinions. I don't understand why people think that Australians default to actually supporting terrorism. I don't believe that people in the West default to supporting terrorism. So, those acts I could never support or never excuse. There is no way that I could ever excuse the atrocities committed by an organization like Hamas and legitimize that by playing into that game. So yeah, guys, I'm going to keep going with the story. So let's bring up the next story. And this is related to what Avi Yemeni, why he's missing in action today. And, I'm just going to pull up his video. Let's pull up Avi's video because people want to know why he's not here. So let's just pull it up. We won't watch the whole thing. We'll just watch a little bit of it. And I'll keep going from there. Actually, let's just get to the super chats. I do have 2 other super chats. So from Gap Media, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Avi didn't want to turn up tonight in his tutu. That's right. Maybe that's why. If you guys have been watching the Opposition podcast, Avi has to turn up in a pink tutu some point in the next couple of weeks or months, hopefully sooner than later, because the community raised a lot of money. I think we raised about $1,800 in super chats during that show last week to ensure that Avi turns up in a pink tutu. So great work, everyone. And got Cruel Intentions. Hi, Rukshan. Hi, Abby. I'm in a totally non-stalker way. This is Abby's stalker. Cruel Intentions. Hey, mate. Thanks for the super chat. I'll just leave it at that. All right, let's pull up Avi's video. I'm not gonna watch the whole thing, by the way. It's 20 minutes long, but we'll watch We'll watch the first 5 minutes, all right, just to give a bit of context around this hairdresser, and then I'll give some of my thoughts on this particular story as well.
You're a capo. You're the ones that the Nazis used to perpetrate crimes against Jews. You're the ones that racist uses. Don't touch me.
I'm the owner of the building. I bought the building about 8 months ago, and I've just had nothing but grief. And then I'd come in, try to talk to her. She basically wouldn't talk to me, calling me names from WOG to dirty Arab or whatever. I mean, I'm Australian, Spanish background.
The police were here from early afternoon, and we were told that she went into one of the police cars and was driven home, and one of the policemen took her car and drove her home. Now when you ring up, it says, oh, you've rung up after hours, please leave a message. Yeah, so that's where it's at. And she's a real hero type.
We're putting up a police sign, should be gone in 14 days. That's it. I won't have any racist crap under my property.
Were you surprised when you saw the story come out about what you did?
Not really. Not really. I was surprised when I first bought the building and moved in at the back. The shit that I was copying from her. Even the agent couldn't believe it.
I'm just going to pause back there, guys, and give you some context. So this is the hairdresser in Bentley that refused services to an Israeli Australian and said that you're not welcome in this store because you're a baby killer and get out. And then the next day, there's been, or I don't know if it's the next day, but a couple of days later, as the news has gotten out, people have gathered in front for a protest. What I found really interesting about this particular segment was This is actually the landlord, the owner of the building, and he has some choice words for the tenant as well, which I found really interesting. Like, no, I didn't expect to see the landlord out the front protesting about the tenant. And he's not Jewish or anything like this. He actually says he's an Arab Australian, and he's got all sorts of views with her because apparently she's called him a wog and an Arab or something like this, or whatever he says, allegedly. And he's got problems with her in terms of racism that he says around that. Now, my personal views on this is that no Australian in this country should be discriminated against on the basis of their race, ethnicity, or nationality when they go to book a service or use a service. Right? We should not and cannot be doing that. And I do believe it's discrimination, and there should be a court case against it. And I feel like it's kind of like an open and shut case. The lady pretty much on video admitted to the fact that she discriminated openly just based on the fact that someone is Israeli, and that's wrong, regardless of what you think is happening overseas. Like I said, you want to have this country where it's like this multicultural, diverse, and all this kind of nonsense that we hear all the time. Well, then you got to respect people from different cultures and different places and not discriminate against them on the basis of what's happening overseas. Because if you take it in that way, there's so many conflicts overseas, so many ethnic battles and ethnic wars between different cultures, and we cannot have this society disintegrate in Australia based on what's happening in foreign lands. That's very un-Australian. That's not who we are, and that's not what we should accept, actually. That's what I meant to say. So I think this lady should get done for discriminating against people. It's just not on. And regardless of whatever you think is happening overseas, and I know Richard or someone is in the comments having a go at me for even playing this video, you cannot discriminate in Australia, and we cannot become like these, overseas, what you see, right? The racism, the ethnic violence, the savagery that we see. We got to keep these basic sense of decency about who we are as a people, and cannot allow foreign conflicts to deteriorate that. Let's watch a little bit more.
Lunatic.
How you doing? Guys, have you seen there's a great seminar coming up, The Power of Kindness? Anyone here interested in joining a kindness seminar promoted by the kindest business owner? No?
Idiot. They don't have an idea what's going on. Totally don't have a clue what's happening. And we are going to lose that country for those 1 million or 1.5 million that running, amok in the streets. I'm sorry. We have to be vocal. Enough is enough.
I just can't believe people like that exist anymore. Growing up here in the 70s and 80s, there's a bit of racist going on. But not today's society. We've moved on from that, and this needs to be stopped.
She's part of the kindness mob. You don't believe her kindness?
Kindness.
I've come actually for a
Someone says, you don't know what was said between the two involved. Stop assuming, Rook. Well, yes, normally we don't know, and it's normally like a he said, she said. Now, when she was confronted on camera, she directly admitted to the fact that she will kick out Israelis because they're baby killers. Now, again, that's on tape. She said that. The customer said that this is what happened. She didn't deny any of it, and she actually doubled down on the fact that she has these views. So it's problematic for her. Now I'm not a practicing lawyer. I did flunk out of law school, right? I'm not going to make a direct claim that I know that this is for certain, but it looks pretty clear cut to me in terms of what happened in that store, in terms of what the customer is saying. And she was very openly boasting that she would take such a stance, and she sees no problem with it. So I think she's in trouble. And if she's not in trouble, I think then we have something wrong with the racial discrimination type of laws, the way that they use. Because if it happened to any other race, right? If, for instance, a white Australian kicked out a Muslim customer or an African customer or something like this, they would be held to pay. So as Australians, we should expect that the laws are applied equally and fairly without prejudice. And I think that's what our expectations are.
haircut. I didn't read the reviews yet, so is it a good place?
You may not want to walk in with that or with that, I don't know.
All right.
If you get in there and get a haircut, can you try get back my deposit? Who are you hoping takes over?
Not a hairdresser, that's for sure. I'm scared of hairdresser sellers now.
Hey, my wife's a hairdresser. She's quite scary as well, but she's not a racist.
Well, if that's all right then.
the behaviour you walk past is the behaviour you accept. I'm not Jewish, but I'm here because I don't find that type of behaviour acceptable in a country like this.
When I heard about this morning, I was bloody disgusted. Bloody disgusted. This is so un-Australian.
Other Australians are going to stand around and allow that to happen. They need to have a good hard look at themselves, because this is a country where you should be able to be anybody. If it was the other way around to a Muslim person, they'd be all over it. It's wrong, and I'm so happy to see so many people here, and I would urge more non-Jewish people to get down here as well.
Are you Jewish?
No, I'm not Jewish. I'm a human being. You don't have to be Jewish to find disgust in this. Simple as that.
And that's why I'm here.
So guys, I'm going to pause that there, but if you wanted to watch the rest of that after my show, of course, don't leave the show to go watch Avi Yemeni. Do you really want to leave the show to go watch Avi Yemeni? Of all the things that, you know, you could find entertaining to do in your life, do you really want to do that? Because it actually goes for about 20 minutes. You can see in that timeline there. And, you know, you can go watch that afterwards. And probably me and Avi will discuss this as well on the Opposition podcast on Thursday and go through some of his thoughts, some of the story, and, you know, the kind of confrontation with the woman initially, and then the protest as well. So we'll be doing that. There is a part in this that I want to watch with you guys now, which is this individual. Let's have a look at this. This is an individual that's turned up. He has turned up at previous gatherings as well of you know, pro-Israel type events or pro-Israel protests, or you know, he's come here by himself, and I think eventually he was arrested by the police as well on this day as well, and he's been previously arrested as well, but he's turned up to support discrimination, I guess, to support the lady discriminating. Right, let's just watch this video.
Jewish event ever. You're not, because you're not a real Jew. You're a capo. You're the ones that the Nazis used to perpetrate crimes against Jews. You're the ones that racist uses. Don't touch me.
Get back. Get off his mic. Get off the mic. Both of you don't go anywhere. Move away. Both of you don't go anywhere. Just move away. I'm a lawyer. Be careful.
I'm fine. See, that's all it takes. Hold on.
We're working.
No. We'll get the name and address. 1 second.
Following him.
Hold on.
My boss.
Hold on. I'll give you. Hold on. He's not going to put it on live. He's not putting it on live. Write it down on your phone.
Your name and address.
I'm going to get you the name and address, but it's live. I'm going to get it for you. I'm going to get him to give it to you, but I'm not going to give it to you on the live. All right? I'm the one that got attacked, not him. So that's all right. I got it on camera.
Help me get off the road as well. Get off the road.
Come. That's all right. All it took to get a tolerant lefty to lose his mind and turn violent was to ask questions. Who would have thought?
You're good. Yeah.
So hold on. You're saying you require it.
So I'll pause that there, and we'll actually talk to Avi about this on Thursday night. So guys, make sure you join in on the Opposition podcast Thursday, 7 p.m. We'll discuss with Avi about this scenario, because, you know, apparently the police want to get Benji, the cameraman, for some type of assault or something like this, they're saying, as well. So you saw their interaction there. Now that man did come, take the microphone from Avi, snatched him and lunged at him, took the microphone off him, took the property of Rebel News, and then you know, there was that kind of tussle to get that back. So we'll talk to Avi about that on Thursday and get some of his thoughts on that as well. But you can go and watch this video after this show. It goes for about 20 minutes, and it's got the whole interactions from that day. Welcome, David. Welcome. You are not Australian. Thanks, mate. Thanks for coming on the show. You've been hate watching me for now years and commenting on my page. Thank you so much. I appreciate your comments. Thanks, mate. Got a W for Benji. So maybe we can get some of Benji's thoughts as well. I'll ask Avi if we can get some of Benji's thoughts. I don't know, because apparently now there's all lawyers and stuff involved as well in all of this. So, you know, should these individuals come and try to cause havoc and, you know, tensions at protests, and this sometimes happens when these left-wing agitators turn up to do this. All right, guys, so let's keep moving along. I have been reading some of your comments as we go. I'll just read Gap Media's comment. So the police claim Benji hit the man protecting Avi. What crap. Yeah, so look, we'll talk to Avi about that because I wasn't there. We did see the footage just then, and we'll see what's happening there. And obviously there's lawyers involved now as well with all of this, so should be interesting what happens there. Is Benji going to prison now, guys? Benji's not going to prison. Maybe we'll tell him that he is. We should send Benji to prison for all sorts of other things, not for this. We should send Benji to prison for stuffing up live streams and audio and video and things like this. There are reasons that Benji should go to prison in my book. I would probably happily send him to prison for that, but not for this. David says, lol at the haters watching the show. Are there no deranged lefties to watch? I mean, this hate comes from all sides. It's not just the left, it's the right here as well. Some of the far right, some of the ethno-nationalists here as well, guys. Hello. There we go. Where's your tiny hat, Rukshan? The honorary hat? Mate, just nonsense, buddy. There you go, Swindon, one of the biggest haters. Anyway, let's go to the next story, guys. So one of the other things that happened during that last couple of days that I actually covered was the Let Women Speak, or the Women Will Speak rally. And I'll just give some of my thoughts on that. So, obviously I was there, I covered that. It's already been discussed at length over the last couple of days, but a few people asked me about the event. So I'll just share some things about the Let Women Will Speak rally. I've got a video here from Sky News, so maybe we'll just have a look at the way they reported, and then I'll break down some of my observations from the day. Let me pull that up. If you're joining in, guys, welcome to the Rukshan On X show, where I just go through casual news, go through comments, go through X, and discuss with you guys the happenings of the week. Now, this one here, I just found this video. Let's bring it up. Sky News with Rita Panahi and Rachel Wong. Let's bring this up.
Extreme pro-trans. Now, hundreds of police officers were deployed in Melbourne CBD over the weekend to stop extreme pro-trans protesters from terrorising a peaceful Let Women Speak rally on Spring Street. While the women's rights protesters were listening to speeches and holding signs, the pro-trans activists, dressed in black and with their faces covered, well, they were hurling abuse at police and throwing projectiles at the officers.
Do not approach the police line.
The only confrontation was with officers. 3 police were injured in clashes with activists. 4 people were arrested for assaulting police or failing to move on. 2 people had flares confiscated.
4 protesters arrested, all of them from the pro-trans group. Joining me now is Women's Forum Australia CEO.
It's crashing out, guys. Were you able to see that video? I'm just on the road, so I don't think my laptop can actually handle. I don't think my laptop can actually handle whatever I'm doing right now. The whole thing is like falling apart. Look at that. Everything's falling apart. Let's just give it a minute. Let's let my laptop come back to life. Far out. All right, let's see. Let's give it a second. I think we're back. I think I need to get a more expensive laptop, it feels like. Just crashing out. Try to pull this up. This is a post from Angie Jones. So she was there that day. I saw her there. Men openly walk the streets of Melbourne with signs declaring the intent to bash and kill women. Where is the condemnation from our government, public figures, liberal feminists, and domestic violence organizations? So this is some of the signs that the left-wing thugs were holding, the Antifa thugs. So what did they say here? Death to terror fascism. Death to Australia. I think that's what we've got to take note of there. Obviously, the wishing death to the women there is dangerous in itself and evil. But of course, they have to round that out with death to Australia itself. The hatred of this country is very, very strong. And then we've got Free Marja here, whether in Naarm, Budapest, or Jena, bash the turf fascists everywhere. So this is a radical extremist group of individuals dressed in black, wearing their little face masks, not too different to the NSN that we see and the ethno-nationalist right wing that we have in Victoria as well, that kind of dress the same way. So it's like two ends. On two separate spectrums of the left and the right on the far extremes. They dress the same way. They have the same kind of, mannerisms in terms of the way that they carry themselves. Not completely. Of course, I do feel like the NSN are a bit more disciplined, and they do have a bit more formation when they walk. Those guys seem to be like working out or something as well, whereas these are tiny little stick figures riding around. So there is that obvious difference. But when you see the kind of craziness in Victoria and you have these two groups that are, again, at polar opposites of their views, it somehow feels like the same thing in terms of the extremism. And in terms of this left-wing group, for them, wishing death to a bunch of women who were grandmothers, there were lesbians there, these feminists, a lot of them were like Labour people. And I didn't really get the vibe of any kind of right-wing women being there as such, to the extent of being like someone from the far right or something. There was nothing like this. It tended to be more kind of feminists, old school feminists, as well as these kind of Labour style individuals that we heard from the speakers as well. There was like a grandma that was speaking. She was 80 years old, and she was talking about how she wants to change the Labour Party because she's sick of the Labour Party. But for these radicals, these kind of trans rights activists who are emboldened in Victoria, really, they're almost like an arm of the government. I remember during the time when the Moira Deeming incident happened, the day after, Daniel Andrews went outside and put up the trans flag in front of the state parliament as like a show of solidarity with this particular extremist movement. So, we have them now wishing death to these grandmothers and these women, just talking about the erasure of women's rights in Australia. And that's very problematic because the issue that those women are talking about is actually very real, in the sense that women are being erased from society. There's these trans rights individuals that are wanting to invade, if you ask those women, the way that they would put it is invade into their particular spaces. And of course, there's very intimate spaces as well, like bathrooms, changing rooms, places where women want to feel safe and should, of course, feel safe, and have for a long time been exclusively women's only spaces. Now those boundaries are blurred. And that's why those women go out there, talk about that issue and the erasure of that, and the fact that going forward in Victoria, especially with a lot of these kind of anti-vilification laws, hate speech things that are coming in, it's going to become even harder and harder for Victorian women to actually fight for those rights and actually bring up those issues, right? They've got to be very smart about it, because the protections that are in place to protect these individuals, right, these kind of extremists who are a part of this trans rights activist movement, everything favors them. And that's why I go out there. That's why I live stream the women's events, because it is something that the media should cover. And the media did cover a lot of what happened, only on the violent side of things. They only covered what the trans rights activists were, doing, gallivanting around the city and causing havoc, right? Their clashes with the police. That's what the media covered. There was even one media, I think from Herald Sun, Olivia Jenkins, called the women a far right's women's group, right? Couldn't be anything further from the truth. But that's all the kind of the legitimacy the media gives to this women's movement. So when I go to the live streams, I think it's important to actually hear what these women say. And I wish more media actually let the public hear what these women are talking about, because it's actually very sane, normal things that these women are actually expressing when they go out there on the streets and talk. It's things that every single Victorian woman, Australian woman should be concerned about. The changes which are happening in this country, and in particular Victoria, it's accelerating in such a rapid way that if these women don't stand up and fight back now, things are going to get very messy when it comes to this type of identity thing in the future. It's from Skippy. G'day, Rukshan, you legend. Thanks for jumping in, mate. Always great to have you here. Let's go. I'll go read some of the tweets. Yeah, let me just pull up the super chat from Abby. Thanks, Abby. The crowd stood up and I proudly support them. It was beautiful to see them singing both the Australian and the Israeli anthem. Okay, I think Abby, thanks for the super chat. I really appreciate it. You're talking about the protest in front of the hairdresser yesterday, the Australians and other Australians that turned up support the other Israelis and Jews that were there protesting against the lady that had discriminated against them by kicking out someone that wanted to have a haircut because he's Israeli. That's what Abby is talking about. Thanks, Abby, for the super chat. Let's see some of these comments on what you guys are talking about. Rami, hey mate, how you doing, Rami? You need an M3 Ultra MacBook. Yeah, I think I do. I'm running like a MacBook Air M1, and just with the load on this software, it's actually struggling. So when I'm at home, I'm good, man. I have like these Mac Studio, a few of them, and they're like these kind of supercomputers, and they're all fine. Everything runs smooth. But on the road, this laptop really can't handle the way that I do this production. So thanks, man. I must say your hair is looking sensational this evening, Rukshan. I don't know if you're trolling me, mate, but if it's maybe it's a nice comment. My hair is actually very overgrown. I'm going to book in a haircut, get that sorted out. So Maconomics says, why aren't women protesting in front of the workplaces of these people and getting them cancelled? Yeah, look, I mean, there's different ways you can protest, but my main point around this kind of trans group trying to stop the women from protesting by calling them fascists is the thing that women in Australia should be able to freely gather and talk about women's issues. But in Victoria, it's almost difficult. It's so difficult to do that. And there's actually a lot of women that actually support these women and want to turn up, but they get terrified because the call out goes, they start putting out messaging about violence, and to intimidate women and not for them not to actually gather it and talk about these things. And what happens is, obviously, without attention on these issues, things change, and all of a sudden, it's we're seeing what we're seeing. For instance, with the curriculum in Victoria, where we have the safe schools thing, and it's implemented. And today, parents are running around saying, "Oh, how did all this happen?" Well, it happened over the last decade or so, very slowly. So it's like that boiling frog analogy. Everyone in Victoria is boiling to an extent with these radical changes which are happening. And by the time it all goes through, it's too late. By the time that people actually care about these issues, it's way too late. This is from Cos. This is my first time on your show. I watched the opposition podcast and follow Avi. I watched the live Let Women Speak protest. What a joke the other side was. Glad the police were there. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there was around 300. Someone said there was 300 police in terms of mounted branch, as well as obviously ordinary officers. Then we had the port. They had all the weapons and the shields. But 300 police, let's just say it was 200, right? Because I estimated it on the side that I was stuck in, I counted at least 100, 150 maybe, right? But there was another side, and then there was the police out the city as well. So let's say it was 200 to 300 police. That's a lot of police to be assigned to protest duties on a Sunday or Saturday, whatever day it was. And this is during a crime wave in Victoria. So these protests, obviously, the expected violence and the disharmony in our community means that there needs to be an overwhelming police response to protect people that want to just exercise their right to protest. And obviously then we have the pro-Palestinian protests that have been happening almost for 2 years now, weekly. There's another big one coming up this Sunday, I believe. And again, police resources. So when we do see the crime in Victoria and the problems that people are having, we've got the machete bins, famously, the $300,000 machete bins. So we hear about all these things, and yet we still see hundreds and hundreds of police being assigned to protect what was essentially around 120 women, maybe. Just, grandmothers again, lesbian women, ordinary Victorian women. Yes, some activists were there as well, and some of their partners were there, but they were just talking in front of a microphone. They had a raffle at the start, and they were raffling out women's products or whatever it was that they'd made, handicrafts and things like this. So to have 300 police to have to protect women doing this in Victoria is insane. And that is, again, because of this far left violence that we have. This group in Victoria that have been emboldened by years and years of the government just overlooking a lot of the destruction and the havoc that they've caused. and a lot of their rhetoric, just completely excusing it for decades now. And now today they're just like a violent thug army that rock up to intimidate anyone that they oppose, and it's wrong. Economics says the Jewish lobby was there for some reason. There was a Jewish lady there that was speaking about the anti-vilification laws and how they don't agree with them and how they're using that when they should be using the existing laws, and they don't support the introduction of new laws because that's eventually going to be used against religious organizations that have concerns about all manner of things. So that was the Jewish representative that spoke that day. Cool, guys. Thanks for all your comments. I'm just seeing if I can bring anything up, any questions that I can answer. David says the trans rights people the trans women are women, but that's your opinion, David. So, the Bell tweet. I will try to see what the Bell tweet is. I'm sorry. There's a comment from Avi. Where's Avi? Where is Avi Yemeni? What happened to the opposition podcast I told you guys earlier? Avi is slacking off. He has to do one edit. He has to put together one story. Right? His little story from yesterday didn't look like much of hard work. He had to spend the whole day putting it together, and then, like a princess, he's too tired to do the opposition podcast. So it suits him. The tutu actually suits the princess. I don't know if she will discriminate against Sri Lankans if she's still in business. That's hilarious. Guys, thanks for all the comments. I might have missed some. I'm just going to catch the super chats and see what I've missed. Got one from Cruel Intentions here. Shout out to all the haters watching and helping boost Rukshan's algo. You're you bunch of weird, angry little people. I mean, Cruel Intentions, I love the hate watchers. Guys, please hate watch me as much as you want. Interact with me, write things about me, do all of this kind of stuff if you hate me so much. And I appreciate your attention to whatever I'm doing here on this particular show. But, to the supporters and the fans and the people not the normal people, the majority of people who are normal, thanks for joining in, guys. And I appreciate all the support. All right, let's get to the next story, guys. I'll pull that up while I read some of the comments. Nathan, I'll just answer this. Australia denied entry to Simcha Brotman. I probably buggered the name. An Israeli who said all Palestinians need to be removed from Gaza and stated that all children are the enemy. What's your thoughts on that? Look, I haven't seen the full context of these comments. I'll be completely honest. I have heard, for instance, that this individual did an interview with Shari Marrickson from Sky News, and they were saying that the context was it was taken out of context. The comments. That's what I meant. But yeah, I haven't seen the full comments. And look, again, a lot of these are political opinions. I feel like people should be allowed to have political opinions. We've heard Donald Trump saying that all of the people from Gaza should be removed from that place, and then they should rebuild the place and then bring them back. These kind of comments are not always the way that they portrayed. So I would need to see the full context around those comments. Thanks, Helena. I appreciate it. Appreciate you being a fan. I truly do mean that. All right, let me bring up the next story, guys, while you guys are writing the comments. I hope you're enjoying this show. This one is sure to get the blood boiling, I think. Whenever I read these kind of stories, it just kind of pisses me off as well. Bring that up here. It's going back to domestic Australian issues. All right, let's see if I can change my screen. All right, it's finally loaded. Wow. Feels like I'm back in the, on some Commodore 64 or something from back in the day. But this is about the inheritance tax that they want to have, so like the death tax. And look, you're hearing a lot of talk about introduction of new taxes and for ways for the Labour Party to raise money, obviously through taxing the rest of us. And this is from a think tank that's put this together, and it seems like it's being seriously considered. Maybe it's just scaremongering, I'm not sure, but let's have a read of this article. Controversial 10 billion push to tax inheritance in Australia. Someone's saying no audio. Hopefully it's working. Controversial 10 billion push to tax inheritance in Australia, once in a generation opportunity. The Australian government could soon tax your inheritance if a think tank's proposal is adopted. The Australian Institute put forward 3 concepts to help the country rake in more revenue without impacting low to middle income residents. One of those suggestions involves the reintroduction of an inheritance tax, with the think tank estimating it could generate 10 billion per year. Matt Gerndoff, Australian Institute senior economist, told Yahoo Finance it might not be popular for some, but it could go a long way in paying for essential services. Inheritance tax is once in a generation opportunity, so it's an opportunity, and it can be quite a good large revenue source, he said. Australians have endured inheritance taxes in the past, which have also been called death duties. Federal and state levies were imposed on recipients in wake of someone's death. However, these were abolished in the late 70s and early 80s. CGT was introduced in the mid-80s as a way of taxing certain assets, but that only applies if the asset grew in value after being given to the recipient. Fast forward to now, and the Australian Institute believes it's time to bring back a tax on inheritance, but only for the super wealthy. It hopes the idea will be discussed in the government's economic roundtable this week. So this is all happening this week, this economic roundtable. I don't agree with these type of taxes whatsoever. I feel like we've just been taxed too much. And I know this is aimed at the super wealthy. I believe they're saying people who have an inheritance, like asset value of over $5 million or something like this. But the way that these things work is, as soon as they're introduced, the government finds new ways to lower those thresholds, to lower the means test or whatever that they want to call it. And before you know it, they will find ways to take more money from you. And this is the last thing I think we need in this country. And I do understand that we're entering a phase where a lot of people, I think that's what they mean in once in a generation opportunity. Like there's going to be a lot of wealth transfer from baby boomers, right? They say to the next generation, like people my age in their 40s and 50s and 60s as their parents get older, and so on. The natural things in life happen. There's going to be a lot of wealth transfers going on, and the government wants to get a piece of that. And I just think it's wrong. I just think it's wrong for the case that a lot of the people that have earned that wealth have paid taxes on it already. The government's just double dipping. There are other ways perhaps that we could revenue raise that I'm not going to go into too much detail, but obviously we're a resource rich country and we don't seem to want to tap into any of that, but just overburden everyone else. I don't know. I'd love to see some of your comments around this. If you've shared any thoughts, or if you're still arguing about Israel-Palestine, I'm not sure. Let's have a look. Yasmin says so they say the wealthy, but that's bullshit. Yeah, look, I mean, could be on paper, it appears like that, but they do find a way for it to screw everyone up. The one that I'm worried about is this kind of capital gains, this unrealized gains or whatever that they want to tax, like, just the potential that you might have some gains. They want to tax on that as well. That's very dodgy. Maconomics, this is a perfect person to talk about this, is Maconomics after all. Inheritance taxes could be imposed while reducing income tax, true. Why pay taxes when you're alive when you can pay when you are dead? Get an economist on to speak about it. That's actually true. Like, I am not an economist, and I have heard this argument before but will they reduce income tax as well? Is that something that's in the pipeline? I don't think so. I mean, I just don't see them doing something like that, the way that they're going on about introducing taxes. But I would love to get an economist on, maybe the opposition podcast, talk about these, especially if it becomes a bigger issue. Right now, it's these think tanks. Right now, it's a bit of scaremongering, perhaps, and the government might not adopt these type of pushes. Let's see. Ooh. The parents will start gifting it earlier because there are no tax implications on gifting. I think there is certain implications. Or what I did hear someone say is that, let's say that they do introduce this inheritance tax and people try to, circumvent it by just gifting the assets or the property, whatever it is, to the children, then there will be a gifting tax. So you got to understand, these guys think about all these scenarios. So if you're thinking about this, Nathaniel, they're also thinking about ways to disincentivize people using it as a gift. So there'll still be some tax on that as well. Again, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not an economist. Thomas says, within a generation, they'll be taxing inheritance at 50%, selling on Australians to raise money for globalist crap. Yeah, mate, I mean, it does feel like we are kind of in a constant, where they're just thinking of new ways. I don't know if it'll be 50%, but they'll find different things to tax. Obviously, we're talking about EV taxes now, and some people are upset about that. For instance, initially when they talked about EVs, now I'm not an EV owner, I don't have an EV or anything like this, but initially it was like promised, like, switch to green energy type, system, and it's, great for the environment, and, there's all these subsidies in place and stuff now. But, now we're talking about taxing that more as well. So some things just last for a little bit, right? The good times last for a little bit, and they'll find a way to tax it. Will they tax us for using the internet in the future? Probably tax us for having AI help in the future. They'll find all sorts of things to tax if they can. I'll read this as a statement, Yasmin, because there's a lot there. But you're saying my son passed away not so long ago, and he didn't have a will. Sorry to hear about your loss. So they tried to take 30%. It was a shit show, the amount of paperwork we had to supply to say he and his sister were dependent of each other as they bought a home together. We even had to go as far as providing cat food receipts on who bought cat food that week and who's to buy it next week. Again, if you can read that, see that comment, guys, I think it's a very important point that Yasmin has raised around wills and the government attempting to, where there is no will, for instance, and depending on your relationship status, they might find ways to take more from you. All right, I think I'm still kind of freezing. How am I doing, guys? Let me know in the comments if I'm coming across all right. My laptop is holding up, but it's just coming to the end of its life. I can't believe it. I spent like, $2.5K on this laptop 3 years ago, and it's just falling apart now. Let's try to load up the next story. This is an apt comment. I think I'm going to crash out, guys. I think I'm actually going to crash out. I lasted for an hour. I'm going to have to cut the show short. I apologize. Let's see. Is it coming back now? Economics says buy a new computer and you can write it off in tax. Yeah. Far out. Let's have a look. I'll try one more try. And if not, I'm going to crash out.